Hey everyone, this is the One Eye Scout Kevin Howell on TAN TV, and man, we got an awesome visit here with who I know him as Coach Preston Ivory, but that's not his role anymore, and he's going to share with us a little bit of the story, the journey. P, go ahead and take it over.
All right. Well, I don't know where you want me to start first. Obviously our relationship that I coached you in college and junior college, recruited you out of high school, and then life happens and you went on your way and I went on my way, and then we met back up in Houston. I don't know what was that, like 18, 17?
Yeah, 17.
Okay, 2017, and I was going through, not going through anything, but my pop was a little sick, so I came back to Texas, and that's when we decided to start Diamonds in the Rough. And basically, the premise of it was just to help unrecruited kids or under or kids that quite weren't ready for either Division 1 or college, to just help them get some recognition and identify whatever their weaknesses were, and to get in the gym and start working. And the approach was kind of simple. I just went at it like as if I was recruiting kids again coming out of high school. Just started going to high school games and watching and looking at as what we would call diamonds in the rough type of kids. Obviously you have a kid that may be getting a certain level of recruitment or is already on the radar with college coaches. That wasn't the target kid for us. The target kid for us was the kid that didn't have any recruitment, that maybe we saw something in him, whether it was size, agility, athleticism, attitude, um, and said, "Hey, this is something that we can work with, and let's get him in the gym." And so we started going to high school games and finding kids and inviting them to the gym. We didn't have any one set gym at that time. We would go wherever we, we could find availability, and we took it from there. And it grew into where we were having Sunday workouts. We started on 1 day a week, on Sundays, where we would invite the kids of all ages out to do skills and drills and work on their agility and footwork on a Sunday. And then it went from a Sunday to Sunday plus a day in the week. And then it went from Sunday to a day in the week to 5 days a week, uh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it just kind of grew. Um, and we ended up getting, I want to say, between 12 to 18 kids signed to junior colleges and colleges during the course of our time at doing it.
Mhm.
Um, then we kind of slowed it down a little bit because a hurricane, or it wasn't a hurricane, it was a tropical storm, Harvey, came,
That's
and
right.
then I came to San Antonio, and we had the operation kind of split between San Antonio and Houston, and the metroplex, I mean the syntax, meaning
Yeah.
between Austin, San Antonio, and San Marcos. So we kind of
Mhm.
branched out a little bit, and we decided to just make sure that we got all the kids that we were involved with at that particular time, um, to get them finished off. We wanted to make sure that we got them to their goal, which was to play college basketball. And so we started working with a guy here in San Antonio, John Collins. We call him JC, and he has a gym. So we used his gym along with what we were trying to do, and we kind of moved the operation here to San Antonio, and we kind of been going from here ever since.
Yeah, that meeting with JC and that when we're doing that high school showcase over at Edison, and man,
Right.
that meeting, it didn't alter the course, but really changed a little bit of my life with that because we were doing things in San Antonio, and we both have placed roots here at times, and it's always been your spot. And remember that day we met up at that little restaurant,
Yep,
me,
yep.
you, and yeah,
Black
and
and Rev.
yeah, and you laid it out to me that what you needed or what you were looking for, and I was just happy to be a part of what it turned into. You know, and I think I don't think people really can capture the essence of just keeping kids off the street. You know.
Yeah, it's you know, first of all, basketball has done so much for you and I, and
Hmm.
organized sports, and what that gives you as an individual. So just even if a kid wasn't able to get to college, just having structure around them and exercise and people mentoring them on a day-to-day basis, because a lot of the kids that we dealt with, they went on to be students and went on to college as students, and one of them that sticks out in particular, Brian or Brandon, excuse me, he's working for the Houston Rockets now. He's doing something that's similar to what I'm doing, except that he works in the at the arena, and uh,
Hmm.
and he was one of the kids that played for the Clovers and was back and forth. Called him B Love,
Yeah, I
and
remember him. Yeah.
yep, and he was one of the kids that struggled with confidence and self belief and wanted to be perfect all the time. And when we were doing skills and drills, he wanted his drills to be perfect every time, and he was able to. We were trying to just get him on his high school team. We were just trying to get him to make his high school team, because we would take a kid wherever they were, and whatever their goals were, that's what our goal would be. It wasn't like we would try to inflict whatever we wanted for a kid on them. We would say, hey, well, what do you want to try to do? And for some kids, it was making their high school team. For some kids, it was making the sophomore team. For some kids, it was making the JV team. For some kids, it was starting on varsity,
Hmm.
or getting to where they could get playing time on their particular team. So we would meet a kid wherever they were at. We would take it from there, because I'm a firm believer that repetition in the gym will get you somewhere. A guy working on his game all the time will eventually catch the kid that is talented. If that's his goal, and he has the desire and he has the competitiveness, and some things have to factor in. But if you get in that gym and you work, you can get to your goals.
I think one thing that JC does as well that we did as Diamonds in the Rough, we did the agility. Y'all put them on the track. They ran miles and in the heat and all this, but people fail to realize that that hard work, that intensity, is what it takes to be successful. And I
That's
see
right.
too many kids up right now ducking the work, and I think that's why we're where we're at in San Antonio.
Yeah, and so that's one thing that yourself and JC can stress with these kids. First, it's basketball and sports in general. It's more to it than just on the field. You know,
Hmm.
there's a preparation period that you have to go through, and you can weed out who's serious and who's not serious by some of those phases and
Yeah,
conditioning. And I think that with the agility and the skills and drills, and with what you were talking about with JC, because we're both huge on conditioning. You can't do anything that you want to do in sports without being conditioned. and
Yeah.
that leads into whatever else you do. So that's your fundamental base. So you have to have conditioning. So we added that as an element. It's just as important as shooting layups, working on your left hand, your right hand, whatever whatever your three-point shot, your post-up move, whatever you're doing, it has to have an element of conditioning when you're not touching a basketball, when you're totally away from the sport that you're attempting to do. So if you're doing football, it's when you're working out without the football. When you're doing basketball, it's when you're working out without the basketball. When you baseball, it's without the baseball. You have to condition your body to be able to get the results that you want to get. And I think a lot of parents as well as kids miss that element of it. That's the sacrifice. That's the pain, the no pain, no gain. If you don't go through the pain, there will not be any gain.
Yes. Abdul, can you explain a little bit about Abdul's journey um, with Diamonds in the Rough? And I like in the story about Abdul because we did carry through with those relationships, and those relationships didn't end when they graduated. A lot of those guys still keep in touch with us.
Right.
But Abdul was special. He was the first Diamonds in the Rough.
Well, yeah, like you said, Abdul's a very special person. Obviously came across our path. Um, Coach Mo would always say everything is divine intervention. It happens for a reason. So we had a kid that we were working out. He was coming on Sundays. He was a little guard, and he was playing. We were training him and working him out, and he was going to Houston Community College, and he was playing on their what is it, club team. They
Club
had a club
team.
team. Yep, they had a club team, and the club team would travel and play different club games and play different junior colleges and different things like that. So they had a club team. So he said, "Can you guys come to my game?" And I said, "Sure, we'd love to come to your game and see you play in action and everything like that." So one night I went to watch him play, and he had a teammate that was just a raw athlete. He was about 6'5", 6'6", and he was just running up and down, and he was athletic. He could jump, and he was blocking shots, and he was jumping at everything, and he was fouling a lot and getting caught out of position because he was just trying to make every play that was out there. But the one thing that did stand out to me was his athleticism and his effort, and he was getting every rebound. Like every rebound that was in his area, kind of he was getting, and he was rebounding outside of his area. So I said, "Hey, man, this kid can rebound." So my senses went off, and I was there to see one kid, and it always turns out like that. You go to watch one, and you see another, and so I was like, "Well, who is that kid?" And so I introduced myself to him, and I told him, a little bit about what we were trying to do and what we had going on, and I invited him to a Sunday workout. And I kid you not, from that time to this day, anything we've ever asked that kid, he's done. He showed up to every single workout. He was he's from Burkina Faso in Africa, and he was a foreign exchange student here, and he was living here on his own. So he was kind of sort of taking care of himself, and he was getting some money sent to him from his parents, but he was truly roughing it. And so when we saw him and we invited him and we got him out there and we kind of put him through the paces the very first time, the first thing that we identified was we thought that the kid was malnourished,
Yeah.
that that he was, not that he wasn't eating, but that he wasn't eating enough to meet what his metabolism rate was. And so one thing led to another and led to another, and we realized his struggle and exactly what was going on in his life. And the kid was actually working a couple jobs, going to community college with aspirations of becoming an engineer and also playing college basketball. and his focus and his drive from the very first time that we met him was there. He wasn't there as a player. He was by no means was he our best player. We had other guys that were far above him as far as skills and development and where they were. Some of them younger than him, some of them his age, but his will and desire and his intestinal fortitude was unmatched by any of the guys that we had. And so we all mutually agreed that if we could just keep this kid going and keep working with him, that something will work out for us in the end. And so we just started working him out. We started working him out every chance that we could. We got him on that health and nutrition plan with the supplements that you had provided for us. Um, we found, we got with Butler. We got him a strength and conditioning guy. We kind of manufactured a strength and conditioning coach and turned him into our strength and conditioning coach. So when we didn't have him in the gym, we had constantly had him monitoring his weightlifting and his conditioning and his footwork and his diet. And so we kind of put a program together for him. And the goal was to get him to a junior college. Um, we didn't have anybody, we didn't have any idea where, we didn't know who or what. I just felt as though I knew some junior college coaches and I felt I had a few connections that if we got this kid right and got him in front of some people, that something could happen and something would happen. And we approached it like that. And we went from that approach from day one.
Yeah, and he ended up being a freshman All American, and now he's an engineer with a youngin in the fold. I do. We talk about grinding and dog work and all these things, but as adults, you continued that and continue that to this day. We always laugh about you got to catch you at 5 a.m. Uh, but that story with uh, in Philadelphia with Pat Croce,
Right.
will you share that story, man? Because that to me is how an adult displays a dog mentality.
Well, so uh, I was a junior college coach. I wanted. That's when I was very aggressive. Like whatever was in front of me, I thought that I could conquer it as far as coaching and recruiting or what have you. And so we had one of your former teammates and one of our former guys, Mark Davis, who played at Howard College. He was playing for the 76ers.
Hmm.
And I was, my fiance at the time was living in Philadelphia. So I said, Mark was there, she was there. So I said, all right, let me come up to Philadelphia and spend some time in Philadelphia. So I went to Philadelphia. That's what initially took me to Philly.
Okay.
And so I was hanging out with Mark, and the season had ended, and so it was the end of the season. So players were kind of coming and going and cleaning out their lockers, and Philadelphia had Pat Croce had just purchased the 76ers maybe 2 or 3 years ago, but he was kind of a new owner. They had just got Allen Iverson. And I wasn't really plugged into exactly what was all going on in Philadelphia, but
Yeah.
when I went there in the summer, I kind of, just put my ear to the street and said, okay, this is kind of what's going on. And it was an organization in transition. So I figured they may need some people. Um, and so I had always wanted to get involved in the pros and in any capacity that I could. So what I did was I put my paperwork together. I got my resume together, um, and got some pertinent and relevant information to what I was trying to do because I was going to introduce myself to Tony DeLeo, who was the director of scouting at that time. Larry Brown was the head coach, and Pat Croce was the owner. Um, I was going to introduce them, let them know who I was. Preston Ivory. I'm a college coach. I'm interested in becoming a scout if any of that is possible. So this was all my plan. I hadn't told Mark any of it. This was just something, just sitting late at night brainstorming. Like, this is what I want to try to do, and so I put it all together on paper, resume and relevant information. And so Mark and my other buddy that was playing for the Sixers at that time, Doug Overton, they were going to clean out their lockers. And I said, "Hey man, do you guys mind if I ride with you today?" And we would, like, some of the time they would go work out in the morning and they would come pick me up when they got done, and we would just talk about the latest and greatest, what's happening, and just hang out, maybe get some lunch or something. So they said, "Sure, you can ride down there with us. We're gonna get our locker. You got to hang in this little area here while we are doing our locker, and then we'll do our locker and we'll come on. All right, cool. Just tell me wherever you want me to go, and that's where I'm gonna go." So we get down to the practice facility, and I see guys walking around. Now I'm not familiar with any names or faces, but I kind of recognize, obviously, Larry Brown. I say that I saw Pat Croce on TV, so I said that must be Pat Croce. And I just seen a lot of movement, and it was kind of the end of the season, and they were going to have like a front office meeting, kind of plan for what they were going to do for the summer. So I saw all this action going on, and I always had my resume with me. Um, so I told him, "Hold on for a second." I told Mark and Dougie, let me borrow your car key, whatever. I go out to the car, give a resume out of the car, roll it up, put it in my sleeve, in my shirt sleeve, because I don't want the staff and everybody to be like, "Well, who is this guy? What is he doing? His ulterior motive." So I kind of had to hide what I was doing at that point. So I had my resume in my shirt sleeve or whatever. So I go back and give Mark and Doug the key, and they're finishing with their locker, and I'm sitting in this area. So I'm kind of just walking around looking at pictures on the wall, and I kind of get lost. So I got lost in the facility, and now I know I got X amount of time to find this meeting, this front office meeting, before somebody says, "Hey, you're not supposed to be back here," or "Hey, what are you doing back here?" Or basically, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
Um, and so I just started kind of pulling on doors, and lo and behold, I pulled on a door and it swung open, and right in front of my face, it was like a conference board table. Like, I opened the door and I'm looking directly at Pat Croce. And to his left or right is Larry Brown, and to the other side is Tony DeLeo, the director of scouting. And it was just like total silence hit the room when I opened the door, because it, this is the owner of the team, and no one comes in unannounced or just swinging doors. And I kind of looked like, is this what I'm looking for? So I just opened the door. We had a momentary pause in silence. Everybody looked at each other, and proceeded to introduce myself. I said, "Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Preston Ivory. I coach. I'm friends." So I had to give them a reason why I was here too. I said, "I coached Mark Davis, and I'm friends with Doug Overton. That's why I'm here in the building. And I wanted to give my resume to you, Mr. Croce, and you, Mr. Brown, because I'm interested in a scouting position." And still total pause. No, not a word drop, and everybody's silent. And so now I'm walking to try to hand it to him, and at the same time, Doug and Mark are coming out of the locker room and they looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm looking at them like, "Just 2 more minutes, man. Just give me 2 more minutes." And I went and I introduced myself to Mr. Croce, shook his hand, gave him my resume, introduced myself to Larry Brown, gave him my resume. They looked at Tony DeLeo and said, well, they said to me, "Well, this is the man that you'd want to speak to. He's the director of scouting." So I looked at him and I said, "How you doing? My name's Preston Ivory." Gave him my resume and I said, "I don't want to interrupt you guys' meeting. I just wanted to introduce myself and see what was going on." And Tony DeLeo, he looked at me, he looked up, he said, "All right, I'll take a look at it." I said, "Thanks." And Mark and Doug were like, "Come on, man, get out of here. Let's go." So I turned around and I left and I had a job at Kilgore. So I was leaving to go back to Kilgore, junior college for the summer.
Mhm.
And it was probably 2 or 3 weeks before I left. Tony DeLeo called me and we talked. And I said, he said, he was telling me, "Man, you that took a lot of whatever for you to come in here
Mhm.
like that. And we don't know, we don't know who you are or what's going on, but that took a lot. We kind of did some research on you. We asked Mark and Dougie. They said you were good guys. We know you're a coach. When you get back to Kilgore, give me a call." So when I got back to Kilgore, I started. I just started doing scouting reports and I had no idea what an NBA scouting report was supposed to look like or anything. But what I did was I just got everybody in my region, and so kind of sort of what I made my own region. Like I made North Texas, like Dallas, Fort Worth area, West Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma. I just made that my region, and all of the colleges that were in that region. I went and saw who their best players were. I
Mhm.
did it and I mapped it out just like if I was going to do a recruiting trip. Um, and I started popping up on these guys at their practices and sending the information to Tony DeLeo. And I became a satellite scout of the 76ers.
Man, that's it's a great story. It illustrates so much, and those same concepts that you put in place were some of the lessons that you were handed down to in the mentoring process about assertiveness, about how to get this, how to get that. Um, but now, so you working with Philadelphia?
Yeah, so at that time I was actually employed as Kilgore College, junior college.
Hmm.
Um, when I was working for Coach Schumacher, and
Yeah.
I was doing the Philadelphia stuff on the side. Um,
Oh.
yeah, I was doing the Philadelphia stuff on the side, and just sending in reports to Philly because once again, wherever you are is your most important gig. And so
Hmm.
Coach Schumacher was like, "Yo, man, I know you real uh, ambitious and you're real aspiring, but I'm paying your paycheck here at
Yeah.
Kilgore. So the time that you're spending on that, I need you to spend on this." Um,
Hmm.
and Coach Schumacher, one of my best friends to this day, uh, he checked me on all of that, which
Hmm.
really helped me because you can spread yourself too thin. And my number one priority was to Kilgore College and to us being the best possible team that we could be. And if
Hmm.
I had extra time or free time or what have you, then that time should be going to the team also
Yeah.
because it's only going to make us that much better. And when you're in the position of an assistant, and I was trained and mentored by Coach Collins, Tommy Collins, you're always working for what you want to do next.
Hmm.
So if I wanted to be a head coach or if I wanted to get to a Division 1 recruiter level or get on the path to becoming a Division 1 coach, then I had to totally give it up for where I was at. Whatever the head coach's goals and dreams and aspirations are, that becomes mine. And together, we do everything that we can to possibly make that happen. And we had a really, really good team. He had some really good players coming back, and he had some really good incoming players. And this was my first year with him, and so he was trying to get a feel for me, and he knew what we needed to be good. And that was 100% commitment from me. I couldn't be a body there and a mind somewhere else. So he checked me on that. So I only worked on that stuff in my on my extra time, which was really on Sundays. And he would give me some time off, like a day or so, or whatever, during the week, and I would work on it then. But our goal was Kilgore College, and kind of make a long story short, that team that we had that year, we ended up is in the Kilgore College Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
just happened a few years
yeah,
back.
it just happened a couple years ago. That was actually Shu's best team there. So it it
No,
it it gave me perspective.
and what's I know you, and I know you live by these values and are putting everything on your focus on. And it was interesting, like looking back on it. You know, the guys say P's crazy, P's, right?
Yeah.
But now it makes sense. It really does. In this line of work, in your line of work. So fast forward quite a few years, and what's your position now with the Spurs?
Well, now I am a facilities manager and events manager. So basically, and we have a new facility. So I
Mhm.
manage the training facility and all events that take place inside of the facility.
And that gives you exposure to guys, like watching the guys work out. I mean,
Yeah,
I remember,
go ahead.
I remember a couple of trades was unsettling for a bit.
Right.
Does that hurt you at the facility?
No, because first everybody knew how
The
I felt about
relationship.
that guy, that
Yeah,
relationship that I had with that particular individual. So
yeah,
that was genuine and that was that. But I also, just by the way that I work and do things, would like to have thought and think that I formed those type of genuine relationships with other people as well. And
hmm
so um it's always the team over an individual. So the team, I was still totally locked into the team, even
yeah,
though we made the individual move, and I felt as though it was good for both people involved.
hmm
Um, if you took away my selfish reasons, "Oh, I just want to watch this guy play and be part of what we have here," but it was best for both entities, and we just moved forward. I was able to progress with the organization, and he's obviously able to still be a very productive NBA player.
yeah. We're gonna wrap it up right quick, but the question I always ask at the end is: outside of basketball, what is your hobby?
Outside of basketball, and you're gonna say this is crazy, and you're gonna say, "Man, I ain't never knew this." Well, I like to fish.
Never knew that,
Yeah, fishing I rarely have time,
man.
but whenever I do, a buddy of mine that I work here with, um,
yeah.
he's taking me to the coast, and so I went fishing there. But when I finished college, another good friend of mine that was from Arkansas, he turned me on to fishing, and ever since then,
Mhm.
that's been my thing. So fishing is my number one hobby outside of basketball.
That's awesome, Pete. Uh,
I knew you was gonna laugh about that.
well, thank you for your time and thank you for watching. This is Kevin Howell, the One Eye Scout. I'm here with Preston Ivory, my mentor and the man that got me back into the game and got me out of my situation. And that's what we're trying to do for others here. Thanks for watching. It's TAN TV, African American Network, with a local feel and a global reach. Hold on.